Baby, I don't cry over you. Take two. Had my lunch all alone. Waited for you to phone. Said you'd call me at 2. So about 20 or 3, I had cocktails with Lee. Baby, I don't cry over you. Stood me up in the rain. Tried to hurt me again. Bet you thought I'd be blue. I went out to a show with a swell guy named Joe. Baby, I don't cry over you. These foolish games you keep playing might work with somebody else. But I could have told you right from the start, no man is man enough to break my heart. If you don't come tonight, think you give me a fright. Tell you what I'm gonna do. I'll put on my best gown and go painting this town. Baby, I don't cry over you. These foolish games you keep playing might work with somebody else. But I could have told you right from the start, no man is man enough to break my heart. If you don't come tonight, think you give me a fright. Tell you what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna put on my best gown and go painting this town. Baby, I don't cry over you. Listen, Jack, your sweet Jill will be out there with Bill. Baby, I don't cry over you.
Hi, and welcome back to my channel. This is going to be the addendum to my previous video on Ampech's ATR-800 and Ampech's ATR-102. Due to my ham-fisted editing, I lost portion of the video, and I thought it would be nice to still record that missing portion because I think it contains some interesting information. But first I want to listen to this beautiful recording just to set the proper tone for the video, if you will. First of all, in this portion, I would like to cover the designs of head blocks for those two very different models. And yes, I know, if you look just superficially from the very top, they may look almost identical to you. But of course they're completely different, and different to the point of being totally incompatible. Any attempt at making one block work on the other machine will fail rather miserably. Take my word for it. Yes, the general shape is kind of similar, and the general architecture is more or less the same. So here we have the erase head, recording head, and playback head in the same orientation as on the ATR-800. And we also have the flutter rollers on both machines, the feature which I love a lot. In the back, you see a very similar arrangement with the circuit board going into the connector on your chassis. And you see some other similarities. For example, this alloy shield with this interesting cutout is kind of similar in its structure. But let's not be fooled. Take a look at this one once again. You see, this is the aluminum body of the head block. Same here. But the difference, of course, is at the bottom you have another layer of magnetic shielding. This shiny metal, you see, it's actually very thin. It's about, I would say, 30 thousandths of an inch thick. It's a magnetic material. It is something that older blocks didn't have. How significant is the difference? I cannot tell you. It only was possible to discover it during the development of the machine, but I will trust the designers. I'm sure they did the right choice, made the right decision by incorporating this additional shielding element, which separates you from the internal circuit, which contains some high current drives and so on. Other than that, the general structure remains the same. This is now a familiar system for mounting ATR heads. They sit on their own toothed ring that allows you to adjust the azimuth. And that mechanism was retained on this model, except some geometry differences are there. But you see the same toothed ring and the same azimuth adjustment. Now, one question that immediately comes to mind: why is this block so much taller? And the answer is, I don't know. Was it because they wanted to be able to use half-inch tape? No, because if you look at this cutout, it is the same size as on this block, and we know full well that this particular ATR-102 block can handle half-inch tape. So a little bit taller heads here, and this opening would allow a half-inch tape to pass through. So why this unused space on the top of ATR-800 block? I don't know. But it is there. They probably had some ideas about future modifications or options. I don't know that. But certainly the way it is, it uses a lot of empty space above the heads. Talking about the locking detail on this head block, I have never been crazy about this particular arrangement. You have to position it just right before you insert the block. And then you have to use a small Allen key put the block head straight down, and turn the key 90 degrees to the right. In which case, it will turn like that, and it will be locked into the recess in the chassis. Now, it sounds simple, but it is not, because you can leave it in pretty much any position, just like that. And it's not going to be fully locked. But you know, the problem is you don't have any idea about the orientation of that piece. If somebody did lousy job locking it before, you don't know where it is. Does it need just additional 10 degrees rotation or 70-degree rotation? You have no idea. So when I encounter a machine like that, I just start going in small increments until I hit it just right for the extraction. And then I use the Allen key with a tape flag on it, so I can see the degree of rotation. And 90-degree rotation is fairly easy to spot. So why did Ampex select this particular locking system? I don't know, but like I said, it is definitely not my favorite. I would rather use just a couple of old-fashioned captive screws. And as you can see, the detail is different now on the ATR-800. It is longer, it's more substantial. I think it may be even slightly larger in diameter. But that's small construction details. It doesn't affect any functionality. Overall, the Ampex head blocks are of very high quality and very high degree of refinement. For example, you don't have any standard adjustments for back and forth or tilting forward and so on, because they're all built into the structure of the head with its base. It's done in precise way, so you don't have to adjust those parameters. The only thing you have to worry is the azimuth, and that's very easy to adjust. Why did somebody drill this hole larger? I don't know. Normally they come in this size. Yes, I understand. Sometimes you have concentricity problem between the recess for the screw head and the hole is a little bit too tight. So maybe slightly larger hole would be a good idea, but probably not that like this. As I mentioned before elsewhere, the parts for ATR-800 are generally available and are not very expensive. And witness this particular block. You see here we have this magnetic shield that goes on the bottom. Very nice detail. I like that. The top shield, like this one, is missing from here. That's how it came to me. It was sold this way on eBay. And the part cost was so low that I didn't feel like complaining about it. It got basically all the parts. And this is, as you can see, this is a mono full track configuration, which can be very nice if you wanted to record your own test tapes. For example, you would like to have a test tape of nothing but just a reference level 400 Hertz signal. I have tapes like that. I find them very, very convenient for a lot of my work. And in this case, this is a better way of doing this type of test. Yes, you can do it on the stereo head, but then you have question about gain matching between two channels and some azimuth skew and whatnot. This one gets around that problem and you record clean mono full track signal. if I want to use this block, all I need to do is remove 4 screws on the bottom and steal this block mounted on this one, and I'm done. Just as one point of reference, head blocks for ATR-102 are very expensive. If you look on eBay or Reverb, they don't pop up for sale very often, especially in good condition. If you find nice, clean block without too much wear, you're probably talking about $2,000. I don't remember exact cost of this one, but I think it was somewhere between $100 and $200. Yes, chances of finding it are a little bit scarce, but there are some links you can identify and you can pursue some sellers. I believe this one came from Argentina. So it's possible. And like I said, the prices are completely different, especially since many of those blocks are using the same Ampex heads. Yes, granted, a stereo block for ATR-800 would be much more than $200, but still nowhere near the cost of that one. It simply has to do with popularity of the model, how many people using 800s versus 102s. Of course, it goes without saying that if you would like to swap the block, you probably need to do full calibration. Okay, maybe not full calibration, just playback calibration, if all you want to do is play different tapes, different format. Or, as in this case, you see those are ferrite heads. And those are original Ampex ferrite heads. Why, can you ask? And the answer is Ampex, according to my information, actually started with ferrite heads, but then it moved to alloy heads, mainly due to some cracking problem in ferrite. Ferrite is brittle material, and many ferrite heads have developed cracks during their lifetime. Certainly, alloy heads don't suffer from this malady, but this particular block looks very clean, no cracks, and it plays very well. And of course, you know the common wisdom that alloy heads are always better. And generally speaking, I do think that way too, except in one test that my partner and I have conducted, this particular block scored better than good alloy block on one of my ATR-102s. I don't know why, but we certainly preferred its sound. So take it for whatever it is. It's not very scientific, but both myself and my partner, we have very good experience listening, and we have relatively well-trained ears. So I think there is some truth to that statement. So this is probably all I would like to say about the head blocks of those two different machines. So let me now switch to a different subject, which is the head preamp from ATR-800. As I think I mentioned before, the ATR-102 architecture leaves me a little bit feeling uneasy, because they take the signal from the heads and run it through the cables down to the bottom body to the audio cards. Yes, the distance is not that great, but still it passes through the area of the power supply with its ripple currents and AC currents, and some high-power drive circuits. Ideally, and I'm saying ideally, I would like to have the first stage of amplification right next to the tape head. So the low-level signal would be properly buffered, amplified, and sent down to the gain stages. And this is what this particular assembly accomplishes. Once again, this assembly was purchased on eBay as a spare part for very, very low price. You notice that it is full track mono one, but you can easily load additional components. The circuit is actually very simple, and turn it into stereo version. This section is simply the monitor amp that controls the speaker. You can listen to the track with this capacity. Now, looking at the size of this board and its complexity, it looks like there is plenty of room to put in very nice discrete preamplifier. And if I had a spare time and sufficient inclination, I would probably design my own board. It's not a complicated board. It's easily reproducible. There are some switches here and a trim pot, but it's not a complicated board to lay out. Who knows, maybe perhaps somebody will decide to make this project happen. I know some people do work with discrete design for that type of circuits. And I think that should improve the sound of this particular, already very fine machine. The lever on the left is just a locking detail for this assembly. So this is pretty much it for what I missed in my previous video, and hopefully you found it interesting. And as a conclusion, let's listen to another track from this wonderful recording.
It's magic. You sign, the song begins. You speak and I hear violins. It's magic. The stars desert the skies and rush to nestle in your eyes. It's magic. Without a golden wand or mystic charms, fantastic things begin when I'm in your arms. When we walk hand in hand, the world becomes a wonderland. It's magic. How else can I explain the raindrops when there's no rain? It's magic. Why do I tell myself these things that happen are really true, when in my heart I know that magic is my love for you.
That is beautiful. And as a final statement, before I get subjected to the barrage of rotten tomatoes, let me admit one mistake I made and clarify a little bit about the head block design. Upon additional examination, I discovered that I made a wrong statement. The ATR-102 block actually does have this additional shield at the bottom. It's just not as pronounced. It stops here versus being kind of wraparound design on ATR-800. But yes, it is still the sheet of magnetic shield on that head block. So that's in a way of the correction. And one final note, and I promise this to be final. This is my collection of remote controls for various tape machines. There is an Otari MTR-12 on top, MCI in the middle, then you have Ampech's ATR-800, and then the Sony. And here you can see what I mentioned about this particular remote that I like so much. It's counter feature. It's very small in size, but it's got all the functions of the mainframe. Wonderful. I like that. And with that in mind, thank you very much for coming here again, and see you next time. Bye-bye.